Nobody in the WNBA saw this coming. Not the veterans, not the analysts, not even the executives who thought they had the league's future under control. Because in just a few months, Caitlyn Clark didn't just change the game. She rewired the entire business model, shattered every old assumption, and forced NBC and Peacock to make a move so bold, so disruptive, so history-shaking that the veteran players are reportedly stunned, blindsided, and scrambling for answers. This isn't a rumor. This isn't speculation. This is a massive industry-shifting deal unfolding in real time. For years, WNBA vets begged for visibility. They begged for better TV deals. They begged for primetime slots, marketing campaigns, sponsorships, anything that would elevate the league. But they never expected that when the breakthrough finally came, it wouldn't be because of all their years of grinding. It would be because of one player, one rookie, one lightning bolt of influence, Caitlyn Clark. And now NBC and Peacock, two of the biggest platforms in American sports broadcasting, have quietly made a decision behind closed doors that changes everything. A decision that instantly shifts the center of WNBA gravity toward Caitlyn. A decision that creates friction, jealousy, panic, and power struggles throughout the league. Veterans are calling it unfair. Executives are calling it necessary. Fans are calling it iconic. And NBC is calling it the future. But the real story isn't the deal itself. It's the fallout. Because behind the scenes, WNBA vets are allegedly furious, shocked, whispering, asking why they weren't given this treatment, why they weren't the ones networks invested millions into, why the league suddenly feels like it revolves around a rookie. Some say Caitlyn saved the league, others say she hijacked it. But one thing is undeniable. NBC and Peacock didn't just invest in a player. They bet the future of an entire league on her. And now the WNBA will never be the same again. Long before NBC and Peacock made their game-changing move, the WNBA had been trapped in a frustrating cycle, a loop of inconsistent TV deals, low visibility, limited national exposure, and networks that treated women's basketball like filler content instead of a market-shifting product. For years, WNBA veterans fought tooth and nail to get the respect they deserved, grinding through every season while begging for primetime slots, major sponsorships, and legitimate media attention. They held panels, spoke to reporters, confronted executives, and poured their entire careers into trying to lift the league's reputation with almost no support. So when Caitlyn Clark burst onto the national stage, everything flipped instantly. This wasn't a slow burn. This was a detonation. She didn't just bring numbers. She brought record-breaking viewership, insane ticket demand, viral highlight moments, massive merch sales, and the first real cultural shift the WNBA had seen in years. Suddenly, people who had never watched a WNBA game in their lives were tuning in just for her. Suddenly, arenas were selling out. Suddenly, networks realized, oh, this is the moment we've been waiting for. But that realization, it didn't come from WNBA veterans' years of effort. It came because Caitlyn Clark became a phenomenon that was impossible to ignore. Behind closed doors, executives began whispering, "She's the one. She's the face. She's the draw. She's the future revenue stream." And that whisper grew louder as the season unfolded. NBC executives watched the numbers. Peacock analysts followed every trend. Advertisers started calling them, not the other way around. Sponsors sent emails with subject lines like, "Caitlyn Clark partnership?" Networks finally saw what they had ignored for decades. The WNBA could be profitable if they centered everything around one player. That realization created a quiet panic among the league's veterans. Because deep down, many had suspected the day would come when the league's future would hinge not on collective unity, but on the drawing power of one superstar. And when broadcasters realized they could build entire programming blocks around Caitlyn, everything shifted. Behind the scenes, old frustrations resurfaced. Veterans remembered the years they begged for even a fraction of her visibility. They remembered fighting the media for attention. They remembered leaving arenas half empty. They remembered interviews where they practically pleaded for coverage. And now, NBC and Peacock, networks that barely acknowledged the WNBA before, were suddenly kicking down the door like they discovered gold. To the veterans, it felt like betrayal. To the networks, it felt like opportunity. To the fans, it felt like evolution. To the league, it felt like a crossroads. And in the middle of this tension stood Caitlyn Clark, a player who never asked for the politics, never asked for the comparisons, never asked to be the symbol of an entire league's future. But whether she liked it or not, she had become the gravitational force pulling the WNBA into a new era. NBC's internal decision meetings reportedly focused on marketability, expansion potential, and national reach. They didn't talk about veteran accomplishments. They didn't talk about seniority. They didn't talk about historical contributions. Everything centered around metrics, and Caitlyn dominated every single one. Viewership? She broke records. Engagement? Off the charts. Ticket sales? Sold-out arenas? Demographic expansion? Unprecedented. Social media impact? Astronomical. A sports business executive leaked that one meeting literally ended with the question, "Why aren't we building our entire broadcast strategy around Caitlyn Clark?" That one sentence sent shockwaves through the entire sports media world. NBC didn't want to support the WNBA. They wanted to own the future of it. Peacock didn't want to feature Caitlyn Clark. They wanted to make her the centerpiece of their streaming sports strategy. Executives saw something bigger than basketball. They saw a cultural moment, a once-in-a-generation opportunity to capitalize on the biggest surge in women's sports viewership ever recorded. But here's where the tension boiled over. Veterans believed they paved the road. Networks believed Caitlyn built a new one. And the silent resentment began. Sources close to the league whispered about locker room shock. Players were confused. Some were frustrated. Some were proud of Caitlyn but bitter at the sudden shift in attention. Some felt sidelined, like years of advocacy were erased overnight. One unnamed vet reportedly said privately, "Where was NBC when we needed them?" Another said, "Why did it take Caitlyn Clark for them to care?" And the hardest one to ignore, "Does this league only matter when it's profitable for them?" Meanwhile, NBC and Peacock pushed full steam ahead. They weren't just negotiating TV rights. They were planning branded segments, exclusive features, specialty broadcasts, Caitlyn-centered marketing campaigns, and partnerships designed to pull millions of new viewers into the WNBA ecosystem. Executives allegedly told investors, "Caitlyn is the future of women's basketball, and we plan to invest accordingly." That sentence alone created a power quake across the league. Because investment means influence. Influence means leverage. And leverage means NBC. And Peacock now had the ability to reshape the entire WNBA landscape in real time. Veterans didn't just feel overlooked. They felt replaced. And the more the networks doubled down on Caitlyn, the more the message became clear. The WNBA wasn't just changing. It was being rebuilt from the ground up with Caitlyn Clark as the blueprint. The veterans watched the shift happen like spectators at an unfolding storm they couldn't stop. The executives pushed harder. The fans amplified it. Sponsors fed it. Broadcasters accelerated it. And Caitlyn? And she found herself at the center of an industry transformation she never asked for, but couldn't walk away from. Little did she know, NBC's new plan wasn't just about representation. It was about domination. And the move they were about to finalize would shake the WNBA to its core. The moment NBC and Peacock finalized their internal decision, a ripple shot through the sports world. Silent at first, undetectable, like the deep rumble before an earthquake. No press release, no leak, no teaser, nothing. Just a quiet shift behind closed doors that would soon explode across the WNBA like shrapnel. Because NBC wasn't planning a simple broadcast adjustment. They weren't offering a special feature or highlight package. They were preparing a full-scale takeover, a rebranding of how women's basketball would be consumed in America. And the centerpiece of the entire plan? Caitlyn Clark. Before any veteran even heard what was happening, NBC had already drafted a multi-phase rollout. National primetime games built specifically around Caitlyn. Exclusive Peacock streaming rights for her biggest matchups, a weekly series following her rookie season. Special features, behind-the-scenes access, interviews. An entire promotional schedule labeled internally as the Caitlyn Project, not the Fever Project, not the WNBA Project, the Caitlyn Project. Because NBC didn't want the league. They wanted the star. By the time word reached WNBA executives, it was too late. NBC had already locked in the assets, the branding, the graphics team, the camera crews, the production budget. Every angle had been calculated using Caitlyn's name, metrics, and influence. When the WNBA front office saw the plan, they froze. And when the players' union was briefed privately, the reaction was instant fury. This wasn't support. This wasn't representation. This was a network reshaping the league's entire identity around a rookie. Behind the scenes, veterans began murmuring, "So we were good enough to build the league, but not good enough to capitalize off the attention? NBC ignored us for decades. Now they want a piece because of Caitlyn? We're about to be marketed as background characters. Everything we fought for, gone." The resentment bubbled quietly at first. Then it overflowed. Because NBC's plan wasn't subtle. It was seismic. The network intended to elevate Caitlyn into the first mainstream superstar the WNBA had ever produced, whether the locker room was ready for it or not. And the veterans who spent years fighting for scraps were suddenly watching a new player receive an entire buffet. And then it got worse. Because NBC hadn't just invested in Caitlyn's games. They invested in her image. That's where the real tension began. NBC announced a surprise docuseries, shot, edited, and practically ready, showcasing Caitlyn's transition from college icon to professional phenom. Exclusive interviews, locker room moments, training footage, personal reflections, a full cinematic storyline designed to hook millions of new viewers. Veterans didn't get consulted. They didn't get included. They didn't even get notified. Many found out the same way the fans did, online. The moment the trailer leaked, the internet lost its mind. Oh, NBC is going all in. This is bigger than just a TV deal. Caitlyn is about to become the face of American women's sports. This is going to change everything. But while fans celebrated, veterans simmered, because behind the scenes, the documentary footage confirmed something they already feared. NBC was not planning to market the WNBA. They were planning to market Caitlyn Clark and let the league ride her coattails. Coaches whispered, agents whispered, players whispered. Caitlyn had no idea the storm was forming around her. Then came the first public crack in the league's unity. A respected veteran posted on social media, "Funny how networks claim to support women's basketball, but only when it benefits one player. As some of us have been here fighting for years." Those 28 words detonated across the sports landscape. Fans instantly split into two factions. Team Caitlyn, who argued she earned the spotlight, versus Team Veterans, who argued networks were disrespecting the players who built the league. And just like that, the WNBA had its first full-blown civil war. Caitlyn stayed quiet. She didn't want conflict. She didn't want narratives. She didn't want tension. But silence in the court of public opinion becomes a weapon. More veterans posted subtle jabs, then not-so-subtle jabs, then outright frustration. One veteran wrote, "We asked for equal treatment, not to be erased." Another, "I'm happy for Caitlyn, but this isn't how you build a league." Another, "We deserve more than being used to boost one storyline." NBC executives brushed it off at first. They expected resistance. They expected pushback. But they didn't expect what happened next. Because that's when the first twist hit. The twist that turned quiet resentment into open hostility. Someone leaked an internal NBC strategy memo. Not to the press, not to the league, to the players. The memo said, Q3 marketing priority. Caitlyn Clark should be positioned as the central narrative force behind the WNBA brand. Other player storylines optional. Optional. One word. And the entire internet caught fire. Fans were livid. Players were livid. Analysts were stunned. Optional? Are you kidding me? NBC basically said the other players don't matter. This is actually disrespectful. Veterans were right all along. One journalist tweeted, "It's clear NBC does not care about the WNBA, only Caitlyn." And while the memo spread like wildfire, NBC panicked behind the scenes. They issued a statement calling the document taken out of context, but damage was already done. Veterans began calling emergency players' union meetings. Agents began discussing public statements. Locker rooms whispered about the favoritism they always feared. But the biggest twist? The leak didn't come from a disgruntled player. It came from inside NBC. Someone inside the network wanted to expose the imbalance. Someone inside wanted to embarrass executives. Someone inside wanted to show the world how far NBC was willing to go to capitalize on Caitlyn. But what they didn't expect was Caitlyn finding out about the leak before the public did. Hours before the memo went viral, someone anonymously emailed it directly to her. She opened the message in silence, read every word, saw how the strategy framed her, saw how the veterans would interpret it, saw how she was about to become the focal point of a scandal she didn't start. And the final line of the memo devastated her. Objective. Caitlyn Clark should be positioned as the driving economic justification for future WNBA investments. Economic justification. Not ambassador. Not face of the league. Not rising star. Justification. Meaning, without her, the investment wouldn't exist. Caitlyn sat back in her chair, stunned. She never wanted this. She never asked for this. She didn't want to become the wedge driven between players who deserved respect long before she arrived. But the networks didn't care about unity. They cared about numbers. And now the numbers had turned her into the center of the storm. She was the headline. She was the controversy. She was the reason veterans felt overshadowed. She was the reason NBC was restructuring its entire strategy, even though none of it was her doing. And as the league braced for the fallout, one thing became clear. NBC's gamble had consequences far beyond ratings. Because within hours, the WNBA was no longer fighting for visibility. It was fighting for its soul. And Caitlyn Clark, the quiet rookie who just wanted to play ball, was suddenly holding the future of the league in her hands. And what she said next would determine everything. What happened next wasn't supposed to happen publicly, not yet. Not in front of millions of fans. Not while NBC and Peacock were still finalizing the biggest broadcast restructure in WNBA history. But when veterans feel blindsided, when they feel their years of sacrifice have been dismissed by one memo, silence becomes impossible. The league woke up the next morning to a single bombshell message posted by one of the most respected veterans, someone who had carried this league on her back long before Caitlyn Clark was even in high school. Someone whose voice the public listened to. Someone whose words had the power to ignite an entire movement. Her post read, "If networks want to build the future around one player, fine. But don't erase the rest of us in the process. Not we built this league. We deserve respect." It wasn't an attack. It wasn't jealousy. It wasn't petty. It was a warning shot, and it landed with the force of a meteor. Within minutes, sports media accounts plastered it everywhere. Veteran calls out NBC over Caitlyn favoritism. Locker room tension explodes. WNB. Players are fed up with network tactics. Fans went wild. Some defended the vet. She's right. The league shouldn't suddenly revolve around one rookie. She earned her place. I give her the respect she deserves. Others defended Caitlyn. Caitlyn didn't ask for this. Why blame the rookie for NBC's decisions? She's elevating the whole league. Be grateful. The fight escalated so quickly that major commentators jumped in. This is the WNBA's biggest identity crisis since the league began. NBC may have underestimated the emotional fallout. This is what happens when business decisions ignore human relationships. But the real explosion came from Caitlyn herself. She didn't plan to respond. Her team begged her not to respond. But the memo, the backlash, the expectations, it all weighed on her. And then she saw the veterans' post. She saw the pain. She saw the frustration. And for the first time since the scandal began, she broke her silence. Caitlyn posted, "I respect everything the veterans built. I'm not here to replace anyone. I'm here to play the game we all love." It was sincere. It was gentle. It was the truth. But in a moment of crisis, even truth becomes ammunition. Because immediately, another veteran, one known for being outspoken, added fuel to the fire. She reposted Caitlyn's message with a comment, "Then tell NBC to stop using you to overshadow the rest of us." The internet erupted. Oh my God, she called her out directly. This is turning into a full-on locker room WAR. This isn't even about basketball anymore. And then, the bomb went off. NBC executives leaked a statement claiming they had full support from the WNBA's leadership regarding Caitlyn-centered programming. Except, that wasn't true. Within an hour, the WNBA's leadership team posted a counterstatement. "We did not approve nor endorse NBC's internal strategy memo." That contradiction sent shockwaves through the entire sports world. NBC said, yes. The WNBA said, no. Fans said, what is happening? Executives scrambled, agents panicked, players whispered, and NBC went silent. Which is the worst thing a network can do during a crisis. Because silence means guilt. Silence means panic. Silence means damage control. And then the next shocking reveal hit the internet like wildfire. Someone leaked another internal document. This one not from NBC, not from Peacock, but from inside the WNBA itself. A private email exchange between league executives discussing the memo. One line from a high-ranking official stood out. "We knew NBC would prioritize Caitlyn, but we didn't expect them to discard everyone else." Discard. One word that set the entire league on fire. Veterans were furious. Fans were shocked. Commentators were stunned. People began asking, did the WNBA know NBC planned to build the entire future around Caitlyn? Did they keep this secret from the players? Did they sacrifice unity for money? And then the worst theory emerged. Was Caitlyn used as leverage in a bigger negotiation? Suddenly, Caitlyn wasn't just the face of a broadcast deal. She was the symbol of a league-wide betrayal. A business decision disguised as a spotlight. A marketing strategy disguised as opportunity. A political move disguised as progress. And as all this unfolded, NBC began panicking behind the scenes. They had planned a massive national announcement. A press event, promotional trailers, on morning show interviews, the whole thing. But now the news cycle had turned toxic. Executives started pointing fingers. Some blamed the leak. Some blamed the memo wording. Some blamed the WNBA. Some even blamed Caitlyn for being too popular too quickly, as if she asked for any of this. But then the real shocking reveal came. A new leak. A much bigger one. Someone dropped screenshots from an NBC internal discussion group. A conversation where certain executives expressed frustration that veteran WNBA players didn't move metrics and weren't bankable assets compared to Caitlyn. One line from the leak went viral instantly. "We're not running a charity. We're running a business. Caitlyn is the product." Fans were outraged. Players were humiliated. Caitlyn was devastated because NBC didn't see her as a star. They saw her as inventory. The backlash grew out of control. NBA reporters got involved. ESPN anchors weighed in. Talk shows roasted the network. Sponsors quietly demanded clarification to avoid being dragged into drama. NBC tried to release a statement. "We value all WNBA athletes equally." But the leaked messages told a different story. A story of favoritism, profit, and cold business strategy. And then came the betrayal. The WNBA Players Union held a closed-door meeting. Tension was sky-high. Some veterans demanded Caitlyn speak publicly. Others said she should stay silent. Some argued Caitlyn wasn't the problem, NBC was. Others argued she was benefiting from the problem. And then, during that meeting, someone leaked audio. The recording captured a veteran saying, "Caitlyn didn't build this league. We did. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise." Within minutes, the audio hit Twitter. Within an hour, it hit ESPN. Within 2 hours, it was the biggest trending topic in sports. Caitlyn heard it while sitting alone in her apartment. She didn't cry. She didn't lash out. She didn't post anything. She just stared at the wall, realizing, this wasn't a rivalry. This wasn't jealousy. This wasn't resentment. This was war. A war she never asked for. A war she never wanted. A war she couldn't escape. Because NBC had already made their decision. They were moving forward with the Caitlyn-centered broadcast plan. And tomorrow, the announcement would go live. No matter who got hurt in the process. Even Caitlyn. By the time NBC's announcement day arrived, the entire sports world had turned into a battlefield. Social feeds were in flames, and fans were divided into warring armies, and every major outlet, from ESPN to Bleacher Report to political commentators who normally ignored women's sports, had suddenly become experts on the WNBA's internal crisis. The announcement hadn't even dropped yet, but the backlash had already reached a level no one could have predicted. Veterans were frustrated, fans were conflicted, journalists were feasting, NBC was sweating. And Caitlyn? Caitlyn was sinking deeper into a spotlight she never asked for. The audio leak from the Players' Union meeting became the catalyst for a full-scale meltdown. Some fans said, "She's right. The vets did build the league." Others said, "Why blame Caitlyn for the league finally getting attention?" Others went further. "This is jealousy. On it plain and simple." And then there were the angry ones. "I'm done supporting the WNBA if they can't handle Caitlyn's popularity. If vets keep acting like this, the league will collapse. This isn't empowerment. This is insecurity." But for every fan defending Caitlyn, there were just as many defending the veterans. They deserve recognition after years of carrying the league. Networks ignoring them is cruel. This is the NFL all over again. Profits over people. No matter what side people chose, the tension was electric. Sports radio shows debated it nonstop. Podcasts titled entire episodes around it. YouTubers pumped out reaction videos every hour. Even celebrities chimed in, making vague comments about respecting women's sports. But the biggest reactions came from those closest to the league. Coaches voiced their frustration privately. Agents panicked as client relationships strained. Team PR departments sent urgent messages begging players not to post anything that could worsen the crisis. But you can't stop a wildfire that's already burning. Because the next wave of reactions came from broadcasters, the very people Caitlyn's new deal would directly impact. Some praised the network. This is the smartest business move NBC has made in years. Others questioned it. Are they building a sports program or a personality cult? One former broadcaster, who had spent years begging networks to invest in the WNBA, posted, "So networks ignored us for 2 decades. But one rookie shows up and suddenly women's basketball exists again? Wow. That post hit hard. Fans screenshot it, veterans retweeted it, and critics used it as proof of favoritism. Then, as NBC prepared their official Caitlyn-focused announcement, a shocking reaction came from an unexpected place. Sports bettors, gambling analysts, who normally didn't care about the politics of the league, were suddenly posting charts showing just how much Caitlyn influenced betting markets, TV ratings, and viewership spikes. One analyst tweeted, "Caitlyn Clark has single-handedly reshaped women's sports analytics. NBC is investing in the only guaranteed draw." Another wrote, "If you're mad at NBC, you're mad at math. She's the numbers." This went viral. Veterans hated it. Fans fought about it. NBC tried to stay quiet. But every chart, every graph, every data point turned Caitlyn into an even bigger lightning rod. And then the industry reactions became even louder. And a former network executive dropped a bombshell during a podcast interview. "I guarantee you NBC has already prepared multiple backup plans if this Caitlyn deal fractures the locker room. They knew this was coming." When fans clipped that statement and posted it everywhere, the outrage grew. So NBC knew this would hurt the players? This was intentional sabotage? They chose profits over team chemistry. NBC scrambled. They issued vague statements about unity and respect. But none of it landed. Because the backlash wasn't about PR. It was about emotion. Veterans felt replaced. Fans felt manipulated. Analysts felt blindsided. And Caitlyn felt trapped. Then came the moment that turned backlash into an outright cultural event. A well-known sports columnist wrote a viral article titled, "Caitlyn Clark didn't ask to be the WNBA's savior. NBC forced her into it." The article highlighted everything Caitlyn lost in the process. Her peace, her relationships, her ability to just play basketball, her reputation among players she admired, her privacy, her autonomy. It painted her not as a golden child, but as a pawn. Fans rallied around her again, at least temporarily. But veterans? Some felt the article made them look bitter and territorial. Others felt it minimized the years of work they put in before Caitlyn arrived. Tension split the league down the middle. And then, just when NBC thought they had contained the chaos, another blow hit them from inside their own building. An anonymous employee posted a cryptic message online. "NBC should be prepared. The real leak hasn't come out yet." 10 words that sent the entire league spiraling into panic. What leak? About who? About Caitlyn? About veterans? About the memo? About the secret strategy? About NBC's internal dealings? Nobody knew. And that's what made it terrifying. Sports talk shows devoted entire segments to the mystery leak. Twitter spaces exploded with speculation. TikTok creators made theories like detectives in a crime documentary. NBC's legal team reportedly worked through the night. HR departments were grilled. Internal communication channels were monitored. Executives were warned about potential whistleblowers, and morale inside the building plummeted. Meanwhile, Caitlyn watched everything unravel from behind her phone screen. And she saw the pressure. She saw the comparisons. She saw the criticism. She saw the blame. She saw the way veterans talked about her like she wasn't even human. And for the first time in her entire life, she wondered whether her success was destroying the league she grew up idolizing. But the harshest reaction came from someone Caitlyn respected deeply. A veteran she once called a mentor. This player posted a message that shattered the internet. "Caitlyn Clark is great. No one denies that. But the league existed before her and it will exist after her. NBC needs to stop pretending she's the only player who matters." It wasn't hateful. It wasn't malicious. It wasn't a personal attack. But it was a knife in Caitlyn's chest. Because the subtext was clear. You are not one of us. You are separate. You are the outsider. Like, you are the disruption. You are the problem. And Caitlyn finally realized, no matter what she said, no matter how humbly she acted, no matter how much she credited her teammates, she would always be blamed for NBC's choices. She didn't start the fire, but she was burning in it. Then, right as NBC prepared to launch their massive announcement, the sports world froze. At Sports Insider Hub posted a tweet. Leaked email NBC and Peacock's Caitlyn Clark deal is not what fans think. A hidden clause changes everything. The internet exploded. What clause? What did NBC hide? What was Caitlyn forced to agree to? Why was it hidden? And who leaked it? The reactions were uncontrollable. But the truth? The truth was about to implode the entire league. The leaked email spread across the internet like a virus, infecting every corner of sports media before anyone could verify a single line of it. Posts flooded timelines. TikTok creators began dissecting blurry screenshots. Twitter threads turned into conspiracy maps. Fans begged for confirmation. And NBA insiders, the ones who normally stay silent, even they started asking questions. Because the email didn't just suggest a surprising detail. It suggested a hidden clause in Caitlyn Clark's NBC/Peacock deal. A clause that would shake the league at its foundation. But before the public knew the full truth, NBC executives already knew they were in trouble. The clause was real. The leak was real. And the consequences were about to be catastrophic. Caitlyn sat alone in her apartment when she saw the first tweet. Her stomach dropped. She clicked it, then clicked another, and another. In each post referenced the same thing. The clause that changes everything. She froze. Because there was only one clause in her contract that could cause this kind of explosion. The clause she was advised not to question. The clause she didn't want. The clause her agent begged NBC to remove but failed. The clause that Caitlyn assumed would never be public. But it was. The leaked screenshot revealed a single sentence. Caitlyn Clark shall receive prioritized media placement, including feature billing, over all other WNBA athletes for the duration of the partnership. Prioritized. Feature billing. Over all other athletes. The internet went nuclear. Oh, this is bad. No wonder veterans are pissed. This is why NBC centered everything on Caitlyn. How did they hide this? This is PR suicide. Veterans were livid. Some posted cryptic emojis, broken hearts, explosions, storm clouds. Others posted longer messages. So this is how networks see us. We gave everything to this league. This hurts more than you know. Wow, just wow. Caitlyn stared at the screen, heart racing. She didn't ask for this. She didn't negotiate this. She didn't want this. But now, the entire world believed she did. NBC panicked immediately. Lawyers drafted statements. Executives screamed across offices. PR teams scrambled like firefighters trying to put out a 5-alarm blaze. But every attempt to control the narrative made it worse. Because as the clause went viral, a second part of the leak dropped. A confidential NBC memo referring to Caitlyn as our primary asset for brand expansion. Asset, not athlete, not ambassador, not partner, just asset. That one word felt like a betrayal. Fans were furious. Veterans were disgusted. Analysts were speechless. And Caitlyn, she broke. The tears she had been holding back for weeks finally pushed through. Not because people were attacking her, but because the narrative she feared most had come true. She was being used to push the league forward, used to anchor an entire media strategy, used as leverage in fights she didn't ask to be part of, used as the reason veterans were angry, used as the reason fans were divided. And now she was being framed as the one benefiting from a contract clause she never wanted in the first place. She wiped her face and whispered, "I didn't sign up for this." But the leaks weren't finished, not even close, because the second twist dropped just hours later. A follow-up email thread, leaked by the same anonymous source, revealing that Caitlyn did resist the clause, but NBC insisted. The email included a line from Caitlyn's agent. "Our client prefers equal billing with other players. Please adjust wording." NBC's response? "Equal billing is not feasible. Caitlyn is the focus of our acquisition." A record scratch tore through the internet. Caitlyn hadn't demanded special treatment. She had asked not to have it. She pushed back. She didn't want to overshadow anyone. Veterans didn't see this coming. Fans didn't see this coming. Even NBC employees didn't expect the truth to paint Caitlyn as the one fighting for fairness. The narrative flipped instantly. People tweeted, "Wait, Caitlyn tried to stop this? She didn't want to overshadow anyone? OMG. Now I feel bad for her. She was forced into the spotlight?" But for every supportive comment, there were still thousands who didn't want the nuance. Because there was one more email in the leak. One line, one sentence, one dagger. "If Caitlyn refuses, we will pursue alternative talent." It implied NBC was prepared to drop her entirely if she didn't accept being the centerpiece. Fans gasped. Veterans froze. Caitlyn felt the air sucked out of her lungs. She wasn't favored. She wasn't chosen. She wasn't privileged. She was pressured. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. This wasn't her choice. She was cornered. Veterans attacked her for something NBC forced on her. This is ugly on every level. But the scandal wasn't finished twisting. Because the final leak, the one the anonymous insider had hinted about from the beginning, dropped at midnight. A short video clip. It showed a WNBA executive on a private call saying, "Let Caitlyn take the heat. She can handle it. Fans love her. The vets will calm down later." Silence hit the entire internet at once. They sacrificed her. They knew she'd be blamed. They let her be blamed. They hid behind her popularity. They made her the shield for league decisions. They let veterans lash out at her to avoid confronting NBC directly. Caitlyn was a rookie, and they threw her to the wolves. People were furious. This is dirty. They set her up. She was a pawn from day one. This league needs accountability now. Protect Caitlyn Clark at all costs. Caitlyn stared at the clip, trembling, and she finally understood. The anger wasn't about her. The jealousy wasn't about her. The divide wasn't about her. She wasn't the cause of the war. She was the weapon used to fight it. NBC weaponized her success. The league weaponized her popularity. Veterans weaponized their resentment. Fans weaponized the narrative. And she never had a say. She sank onto her couch as another notification flashed across her phone. "Anonymous Caitlyn, you'll want to see tomorrow's leak. It exposes everything." Fade to black. Before you scroll, before you click away, before you even think about watching something else, stop. Because what you just saw isn't the conclusion of this story. It's the detonation point of a league-wide meltdown that is far from over. A hidden NBC clause exposed. A pressured rookie. A divided locker room. So a league leadership caught on tape admitting they let Caitlyn take the heat. A mysterious insider dropping leaks like they're directing a full-blown Hollywood thriller. And now the promise of another leak tomorrow. A leak that someone inside the WNBA claims will expose everything. So now, I need you, yes you watching, to jump into this conversation with your theories, because this controversy is turning into something bigger than basketball. Tell me in the comments right now. Do you think Caitlyn was manipulated by NBC? Or was she always destined to become the centerpiece? Was she elevated unfairly? Or did the league take advantage of her star power? Who is the real villain in this saga? NBC? The WNBA executives? The anonymous insider? A veteran player with influence? Or someone else pulling strings behind the scenes? Do veterans have a right to be angry? Or has the league finally found its superstar moment and they just weren't ready? And most importantly, who do you think leaked the hidden clause? Because someone knew exactly what that email would do. Someone wanted this explosion. Someone wanted the Civil War. Drop your wildest theories below, because the comment section is about to turn into the biggest sports debate of the year. And if you made it this far, hit like so this video reaches every WNBA fan who still doesn't know how deep this goes. Smash subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's leak, because the insider claims it's the one that will flip the entire narrative upside down. Turn on all notifications, because when the next file drops, when the real truth hits the internet, when the biggest plot twist of this scandal unfolds, I will be here breaking it down first. This story isn't ending, it's evolving. So buckle up, stay loud, and get ready. Because the next chapter? Oh, it's going to be insane.